Chapter 1. First contact warning came at 03:07 hours, ship time. Commander Sarah Chen bolted upright in her quarters aboard the UES Defiance, her neural implant buzzing with an urgency that cut through her sleep like a plasma cutter through hull plating. The message was brief, coded, and terrifying. Unknown vessels detected. Mass displacement suggests fleet-size formation. ETA, 6 hours. 6 hours until humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. 6 hours until everything changed. Sarah's bare feet hit the cold deck plating as she reached for her uniform. The Defiance was humanity's newest and most advanced vessel, a kilometer-long behemoth of titanium steel composite and quantum-folded armor that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. She was part of the Deep Space Reconnaissance Fleet, sent to investigate anomalous readings in the Kepler 442 system. They'd found more than they bargained for. The bridge was a controlled chaos of activity when Sarah arrived. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez, her XO, was coordinating with the sensor teams while the navigation crew plotted escape vectors. The main holographic display showed the edge of the system, where 12 massive objects had just dropped out of what appeared to be some form of faster-than-light travel. Report, Sarah commanded, settling into her captain's chair. 12 vessels, Mum, reported Ensign Kim from the sensor station. Each one is approximately 3 kilometers in length. They're maintaining formation and heading directly for our position. Sarah studied the display. The alien ships were unlike anything in human design philosophy. Where human vessels were angular and functional, these were organic-looking, with flowing curves and what appeared to be biological components. They were also massive, each one dwarfing the Defiance. Any attempts at communication? She asked. Negative. Ma'am, we've broadcast on all frequencies, used mathematical sequences, even tried music. No response. Time to intercept, at current velocity, 5 hours, 37 minutes. Sarah felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. This moment would define not just her career, but potentially the future of human civilization. The Defiance was equipped with the most advanced weapons and defensive systems humanity had ever developed, but against 12 ships of unknown capability, their chances were uncertain at best. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All ships are to maintain position and prepare for potential hostile contact. Have Dr. Petrov's team ready every scanning array we have. I want to know everything about these ships, their capabilities, their weapons, their weaknesses. Dr. Elena Petrov, the ship's chief science officer, was already at her station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. Commander, preliminary scans suggest these vessels are using some form of biomechanical technology. The hull composition appears to be a hybrid of metallic alloys and what might be living tissue. Living tissue? Sarah leaned forward. You're saying these ships are alive? Partially, yes. It's unlike anything we've theorized. The implications for their repair capabilities, their growth potential. Dr. Petrov's voice trailed off as new data streamed across her displays. Commander, I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their forward sections. Whatever they're preparing, it's big. The tactical display updated, showing energy patterns that made Sarah's blood run cold. The alien ships were powering weapon systems that registered energy outputs far beyond anything in the human arsenal. Red alert, Sarah announced. All hands to battle stations. Signal the fleet, prepare for combat. The bridge lighting shifted to the familiar red of combat status. Throughout the ship, Sarah could hear the sound of blast doors sealing, weapon systems powering up, and the controlled urgency of a crew preparing for battle. The Defiance had been designed for this moment, but no amount of preparation could fully ready someone for the reality of combat against an unknown enemy. Incoming transmission, reported the communications officer. It's not on any recognizable frequency, but the computer is attempting to translate. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was cold, mechanical, and utterly alien. The universal translator struggled with the syntax, but the message was clear enough. Biological infestation detected. Cleansing protocols initiated. Resistance is futile. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Not only was this first contact, but it was with a species that apparently viewed humanity as a biological infestation to be cleansed. "So much for diplomatic solutions," Rodriguez muttered. "Helm, evasive maneuvers. Weapons, I want firing solutions on all 12 targets. Engineering, give me everything you've got." The Defiance's engines roared to life, pushing the crew back into their seats as the ship accelerated to combat velocity. The human fleet spread out in a defensive formation, their smaller numbers compensated by superior maneuverability and the desperate courage of a species fighting for survival. The first alien weapon fired at maximum range, a beam of crackling energy that lit up the void between the fleets. It struck the U.S. Valiant, humanity's second-largest vessel, and the result was catastrophic. The beam didn't just damage the ship, it seemed to consume it, converting matter into energy in a cascade reaction that left nothing but glowing particles where a proud vessel had once been. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. "Weapons range in 30 seconds, reported the tactical officer. All batteries charged and ready." Sarah gripped the arms of her chair. The Valiant had been home to 800 souls, 800 human beings, who had signed up to explore the stars and instead found themselves facing extinction. Their sacrifice would not be in vain. "Fire everything," she ordered. The Defiance's weapon systems unleashed hell. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles streaked across the void toward the alien fleet. The other human ships followed suit, creating a wall of destructive energy that would have been impressive against any human opponent. Against the aliens, it was barely an inconvenience. The alien ships absorbed the human weapons' fire with what appeared to be adaptive shielding. Where particle beams struck, the shields shifted frequency. Where plasma torpedoes hit, the energy was channeled and redistributed. The kinetic projectiles simply bounced off hulls that seemed to harden on impact. "No significant damage to any target," reported the tactical officer, his voice hollow with disbelief. The aliens' response was swift and merciless. Energy beams lanced out from multiple ships, each one targeted at a different human vessel. The U.S. Intrepid managed to avoid the first shot with a desperate roll, but the second caught her amidships. Like the Valiant, she simply ceased to exist. "We need to withdraw," Rodriguez said urgently. "We can't fight them here." Sarah wanted to argue, wanted to find a way to make humanity's weapons work against these alien monsters, but she'd seen enough. The human fleet was outclassed in every category that mattered. Staying would only result in the destruction of every human ship in the system. "All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Execute withdrawal protocol immediately. We're falling back to the Centauri system." The human fleet began to turn, their engines straining to build the velocity needed to escape the system. But the aliens weren't content to let them go. The alien formation split, with half maintaining course for the human colony worlds deeper in the system, while the other half pursued the fleeing human fleet. "They're faster than us," reported the helmsman. "At current acceleration, they'll be in weapons range in 47 minutes. Sarah closed her eyes and ran through their options. The Defiance and her sister ships were equipped with experimental jump drives that could fold space and allow near-instantaneous travel across interstellar distances. But the drives required precise calculations and couldn't be used in a gravity well or under enemy fire. "Dr. Petrov, how long do you need to calculate a jump?" "Under these conditions, at least an hour, maybe more." They didn't have an hour. Sarah looked at the tactical display, watching the alien ships close the distance with inexorable efficiency. In 47 minutes, every human ship in the fleet would be destroyed, and with them would die humanity's knowledge of the alien threat, unless Rodriguez plot a course for the asteroid belt. Maximum burn. Mum, that will take us deeper into the system, away from our escape route. "I know, do it." Sarah activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the commander. We're about to attempt something that has never been tried before. We're going to make our stand in the asteroid belt and show these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity." She turned to Dr. Petrov. "Doctor, I need you to find a weakness in their technology. I don't care if it's a microscopic flaw, find something we can exploit." "Commander, their technology is so far beyond ours. Then we'll have to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than they are. That's what humans do. We adapt, we overcome, and we survive. The Defiance dove into the asteroid belt with the rest of the human fleet following behind them. The alien ships pursued with the patience of predators who knew their prey was trapped. Sarah watched the asteroids tumble past on the view screen and felt something she hadn't experienced since the Academy: absolute, crystalline clarity. The aliens might have superior technology, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd chosen to fight humanity on humanity's terms in the chaos of an asteroid field, where superior firepower meant less than superior tactics. Helm, take us deep into the belt. Tactical. I want proximity mines deployed on every asteroid we pass. Engineering. Prepare for emergency power transfers. We're going to need every advantage we can get. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and Sarah Chen was determined to show these aliens that while humans might be individually insignificant, collectively they were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The first alien ship entered the asteroid belt, its sensors sweeping for the fleeing human vessels. It never saw the mine that had been attached to the asteroid it passed, never detected the human ingenuity that had turned simple mining equipment into a weapon of war. The explosion lit up the asteroid belt like a small sun, and for the first time since the battle began, an alien ship took damage. Chapter 2. The asteroid Gambith explosion that tore through the alien ship's hull sent shockwaves through both fleets. Debris from the wounded vessel, a twisted mixture of metal and what appeared to be biological matter, scattered through the asteroid field like the remains of some massive spaceborne creature. Direct hit on the lead vessel, reported Lieutenant Chen from the tactical station. Hull breach detected, but the ship is still operational. Commander Sarah Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They'd hurt one of the alien vessels, proved that the enemy could bleed. But one damaged ship out of 6 pursuing them was hardly a victory. Any response from the damaged vessel? Negative, ma'am. But the other ships are changing formation. They're spreading out, using the asteroids as cover. Sarah studied the tactical display. The aliens were learning, adapting their tactics to account for the human strategy. That was both good and bad news. Good because it meant they weren't infallible. Bad because it meant they were smart enough to counter human tactics. Status of the minefield: 17 mines deployed and active. Dr. Petrov's team has rigged an additional 37 asteroids with proximity charges. Sarah turned to the science officer. Doctor, what did you learn from that explosion? Dr. Petrov's eyes were bright with excitement. The biological components of their hull appear to be some form of self-repairing tissue. The metal portions are incredibly strong, but the biological sections are vulnerable to concussive force. The mine created a pressure wave that disrupted their biomechanical systems. Can we exploit that? Possibly. If we can create a resonance frequency that interferes with their biological components, we might be able to disrupt their entire ship systems. How long? Give me 20 minutes. Sarah didn't think they had 20 minutes. The alien ships were moving through the asteroid belt with increasing confidence, their sensors probing every shadow and crevice. It was only a matter of time before they located the human fleet. Commander, called out Ensign Kim from the sensor station. I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the alien ships. They're not just searching, they're preparing to sanitize the entire asteroid belt. Sarah felt her stomach drop. If the aliens decided to simply destroy every asteroid in the belt, it would eliminate the human fleet's tactical advantage and expose them to the full fury of the alien weapons. Time to energy discharge: approximately 15 minutes, ma'am. Not enough time, Rodriguez muttered. Sarah stood up from her command chair and walked to the central holographic display. The asteroid belt stretched out before them, a three-dimensional maze of rock and ice that had been their salvation, and was now about to become their tomb, unless Helm plot a course to asteroid designation Alpha 7. Maximum stealth approach, Mum. That will take us within 2 kilometers of the alien formation. I know, do it. Sarah activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands. This is the commander. We're about to attempt something that violates every principle of space combat doctrine. We're going to get close enough to the alien ships to spit on them, and then we're going to show them what human ingenuity can accomplish when backed into a corner. She turned to Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez. Marcus, I need you to coordinate with the other ships. We're going to execute a synchronized attack on my mark. Every ship targets a different alien vessel. We'll only get one shot at this, Sarah. This is suicide. Our weapons barely scratched their shields before. That was before we knew about their biological components. Dr. Petrov, can you modulate our weapons to target their biomechanical systems? I can try, but I'll need to recalibrate every weapon on the ship. It will take, you have 10 minutes. Get it done. The Defiance crept through the asteroid field like a predator stalking its prey. The alien ships were positioned in a rough formation, their energy weapons charging for what would be a devastating barrage. Sarah watched the tactical display, counting down the seconds until they reached the optimal attack position. 8 minutes to alien weapons discharge, reported Kim. Dr. Petrov, status? Weapons recalibration at 60%. I need more time. You have what you have. Make it work. Sarah felt the familiar pre-combat tension filling the bridge. Every officer and crew member knew they were about to attempt something unprecedented. The human fleet was going to attack 6 technologically superior alien vessels at point-blank range, relying on untested weapons modifications and desperate courage. All ships report ready for synchronized attack, Rodriguez announced. Dr. Petrov, weapons. Recalibration complete. I can't guarantee the modifications will work, but our particle beams are now tuned to disrupt biological tissue at the molecular level. Sarah nodded. It would have to be enough. All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Execute. Attack pattern Omega on my mark. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for every human being in the galaxy. The Defiance emerged from behind a massive asteroid, its weapons systems already charging. Around the asteroid belt, the other human ships did the same, converging on the alien formation from multiple angles. Target acquired, reported the tactical officer. Range, 2,000 meters. Sarah took a deep breath. At this range, the human ships would be destroyed within seconds of opening fire. But at this range, their weapons would also have maximum effect against the alien vessels. Fire everything. The Defiance's weapons erupted in a symphony of destruction. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the alien ship at nearly point-blank range. The other human vessels did the same, creating a crossfire that caught the alien formation completely off guard. The effect was immediately apparent. Where the recalibrated weapons struck the alien hulls, the biological components began to convulse and spasm. The self-repairing tissue that had made the alien ships so resilient was now working against them, spreading the molecular disruption throughout their biomechanical systems. Direct hits on all targets, reported the tactical officer. The aliens are taking significant damage, but the aliens weren't going down without a fight. Even as their biomechanical systems failed, they managed to return fire. Energy beams lanced out from the alien ships, striking the human vessels with devastating effect. The UES Ranger took a direct hit amidships and broke apart in a shower of debris. The UES Pathfinder managed to avoid the first beam, but was caught by the second. Her hull breached in a dozen places. Pathfinder is venting atmosphere, reported the communications officer. They're requesting immediate assistance. Sarah wanted to help, but the Defiance was locked in mortal combat. With her own target, the alien ship was dying, its biological components shutting down one by one, but it was still fighting with the determination of a cornered animal. Evasive maneuvers, Sarah ordered as another energy beam narrowly missed the Defiance's bow. Target their weapons systems. The tactical officer worked frantically at his console. I'm reading multiple failures in their biomechanical systems. Their weapons are operating at reduced efficiency. Press the attack. Don't give them time to recover. The Defiance poured fire into the alien vessel, each shot targeting the most vulnerable sections of its biomechanical hull. Slowly, inexorably, the alien ship began to shut down. Its weapons fell silent. Its engines sputtered, and its hull began to split along biological fault lines. Target destroyed. reported the tactical officer. Sarah looked at the tactical display. 3 alien ships had been destroyed, 2 were heavily damaged, and 1 was attempting to withdraw from the asteroid belt. But the cost had been terrible. Of the 6 human ships that had entered the belt, only 3 remained operational. Status of the fleet: Defiance operational. UES Horizon operational. UES Pathfinder critical but stable, Rodriguez reported. We've lost Ranger, Intrepid, and Valiant. 3 ships. 300 souls lost in the space of minutes. Sarah felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like a lead blanket. But they'd accomplished something unprecedented. They'd not only survived an encounter with technologically superior aliens, they'd won. Commander, Dr. Petrov called out urgently. I'm detecting new contacts at the edge of the system. Multiple ships, much larger than the ones we just fought. Sarah's blood ran cold. The alien fleet they'd just battled hadn't been an invasion force, it had been a scouting party. And now the real enemy fleet was arriving. How many ships, sensors, are having trouble getting an accurate count, but I estimate at least 50 vessels. Some of them are, Dr. Petrov's voice trailed off in disbelief. Some of them are the size of small moons. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to process the information. 50 ships, some the size of moons. The human fleet had barely survived against 6 alien vessels, and now they were facing an enemy force that could probably destroy entire star systems. Time to intercept, at current velocity, approximately 4 hours. 4 hours to prepare for a battle that would determine the fate of humanity. Sarah looked round the bridge at her crew, saw the same determination in their eyes that had carried them through the asteroid belt battle. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that viewed them as nothing more than a biological infestation. But they were human, and humans had a long history of achieving the impossible when their backs were against the wall. Signal the fleet, Sarah ordered. We're withdrawing to the Centauri system. It's time to warn Earth and prepare for the fight of our lives. The 3 surviving human ships limped out of the asteroid belt, their hulls scarred and their crews exhausted. Behind them, the alien fleet continued its inexorable advance toward human space. The real war was about to begin. Chapter 3. The message. Admiral James Harrison stood in the war room, deep beneath the lunar surface, staring at the holographic display that showed the approaching alien fleet. The message from Commander Chen had arrived 6 hours ago, transmitted through the quantum communication network. At the cost of revealing the human fleet's position to the enemy, 50 alien vessels, some the size of moons, advancing toward human space with the apparent intent of committing genocide. The largest military force in human history, 300 ships of the sole defense fleet, seemed pathetically inadequate against such overwhelming numbers. Sir, called out Captain Maria Santos, his chief of staff, the emergency council is assembled and ready for your briefing. Harrison nodded grimly. The emergency council consisted of representatives from every major human colony, military leaders, and the most brilliant scientific minds humanity had to offer. If anyone could find a solution to this crisis, it would be them. The council chambers were a study in controlled panic. Politicians argued with military officers. Scientists huddled over tablet computers displaying incomprehensible equations, and colony representatives demanded immediate protection for their worlds. The cacophony of voices died away as Harrison entered the room. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. 6 hours ago, we received confirmation of hostile first contact with an alien species. Commander Chen's report indicates we are facing an enemy that views humanity as a biological infestation to be cleansed. He gestured to the holographic display, which showed the alien fleet's projected path through human space. Their current trajectory will take them through the Centauri system, then Alpha Centauri, and finally to Sol. Based on their current velocity, they will reach Earth in approximately 72 hours. What are their capabilities? Asked Dr. Elizabeth Vance, the head of the Colonial Science Directorate. Their technology is significantly more advanced than ours. They utilize biomechanical ships that can self-repair and adapt to our weapons. Commander Chen's fleet managed to destroy several enemy vessels by exploiting weaknesses in their biological components, but at a terrible cost. Harrison paused, letting the implications sink in. Of the original 12-ship reconnaissance fleet, only 3 vessels remain operational. The enemy suffered minimal casualties. Are you telling us we can't win? Demanded Senator Patricia Williams from the Mars colony. I'm telling you that conventional warfare against this enemy is suicide. We need to think beyond traditional military solutions. Dr. Vance leaned forward. What about the weapons Commander Chen used? The ones that targeted the biological components? Dr. Petrov's weapons modifications are being transmitted to every ship in the fleet. But even with those modifications, we're looking at a casualty rate of approximately 80% against the advanced scouts. Against the main fleet, Harrison shrugged. The mathematics are clear, so we evacuate, said Governor Thomas Chen. From the Luna colony, load every ship we have with civilians and run. Run where? Snapped Admiral Catherine Ross, commander of the Outer System Defense Force. They're faster than us, they have longer range, and they've demonstrated the ability to track our ships through hyperspace. There's nowhere to run. The room erupted in arguments again. Harrison let them vent for a moment, then called for silence. There's one option we haven't discussed. Project Prometheus. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Project Prometheus was humanity's most classified military program, known only to a handful of the highest-ranking officials. The fact that Harrison was even mentioning it indicated how desperate their situation had become. Sir, said Dr. Vance, carefully, Prometheus is still theoretical. We've never tested it on anything larger than a small asteroid. Then we'd better test it fast. Dr. Nakamura, what's the status of the Prometheus prototypes? Dr. Kenji Nakamura, the project's lead scientist, stood up nervously. We have 3 functional prototypes, but they're nowhere near ready for deployment. The power requirements alone. How long do you need? For full deployment, 6 months. Minimum. For emergency deployment, Dr. Nakamura's voice trailed off, 48 hours. Maybe less, but the risks are acceptable given the alternative. You have authorization to use any resources necessary. Personnel, equipment, entire. Industrial facilities, whatever you need. Harrison turned to address the entire council. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing the greatest crisis in human history. The next 72 hours will determine whether humanity survives or becomes extinct. I need every one of you to put aside political differences and work together. Our species depends on it. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Commander Sarah Chen was dealing with her own crisis. The ship's engineering section had taken significant damage during the asteroid belt battle, and Chief Engineer Patricia Murphy was working around the clock to keep the vessel operational. How bad is it, Chief? Sarah asked as she surveyed the damage. Bad enough, Murphy replied, not looking up from the plasma conduit she was repairing. The biomechanical weapon discharge overloaded half our systems. We're running on backup power. For life support, the main engines are operating at 60% efficiency. And don't even get me started on the weapons systems. Sarah nodded grimly. The Defiance was one of humanity's most advanced vessels, but even she was showing the strain of combat against the alien technology. How long for repairs? With a full shipyard and unlimited resources, maybe a week. With what we've got here, Murphy shrugged. I can keep her flying, but she won't be much use in a fight. Do what you can. We're heading for the Centauri system to rendezvous with the Sol Defense Fleet. Sarah made her way to the bridge, where Dr. Petrov was analyzing the data they'd collected from the alien ships. Any progress on understanding their technology? Some. The biomechanical components appear to be based on genetically modified organisms that can interface directly with traditional electronics. It's incredibly sophisticated, far beyond anything we've achieved. But you found their weakness, more like a vulnerability. The biological components are susceptible to specific resonance frequencies, but only under certain conditions. The aliens will adapt their defenses now that they know we can exploit this weakness. Sarah settled into her command chair and studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was still advancing, their massive ships moving through space with the inevitability of a natural disaster. In less than 72 hours, they would reach Earth. Double quotes Dr. Petrov. In your professional opinion, do we have any chance of stopping them? The scientist was quiet for a long moment. Conventionally, no, their technology is simply too advanced. But humans have never been conventional. We've always found ways to overcome superior opponents through ingenuity, determination, and sheer bloody-mindedness. That's not exactly a scientific assessment. No, but it's a human one, and right now, that might be more valuable than all our scientific knowledge combined. Sarah hoped she was right, because in less than 3 days, humanity would face its greatest test. They would either prove themselves worthy of survival, or they would join the countless other species that had apparently failed the aliens' biological purity test. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. Chapter 4, Prometheus. Rising Prometheus facility was buried 3 kilometers beneath the Martian surface, hidden from orbital surveillance and protected by enough armor plating to withstand a direct nuclear strike. Dr. Kenji Nakamura had spent the last 15 years of his life working in these sterile corridors, developing weapons that he prayed would never be used. Now, with less than 48 hours until the alien fleet reached Earth, those weapons represented humanity's last hope. Status report, Nakamura called out as he entered the main assembly bay. Prototype Alpha is ready for deployment, reported Dr. Sarah Kim, his chief engineer. Beta and Gamma need another 6 hours minimum. Nakamura studied the device that dominated the center of the bay. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a large metal sphere, about the size of a small spacecraft. But contained within that deceptively simple exterior was the most destructive weapon humanity had ever created. Power coupling tests completed successfully. The quantum resonance chamber is stable at 97% efficiency. Delivery system. The used Prometheus is standing by in orbit. Captain Martinez reports his crew is ready for immediate deployment. Nakamura nodded. The Prometheus was a specially modified heavy cruiser, designed with one purpose, to deliver the weapon to its target and escape before detonation. It was a suicide mission in all but name. Sir, called out Lieutenant Davis from the communications station. Admiral Harrison is requesting an immediate status update. Nakamura activated the quantum communication link. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the holographic display, his expression grim. Doctor, I need to know if this is going to work. Honestly, I have no idea. We've run every simulation possible, but we've never tested a quantum resonance weapon against biomechanical technology. What about the theoretical projections? The mathematics suggest that a properly calibrated quantum resonance burst should disrupt the molecular bonds in biological tissue, while leaving traditional electronics relatively unaffected. If the alien ships are truly biomechanical hybrids, the weapon should cause catastrophic system failures, and if it doesn't work, Nakamura was quiet for a moment. Then we'll have given away our position and wasted our only chance at a surprise attack. Those are acceptable risks given the alternative. You have authorization to deploy as soon as the weapon is ready. The connection ended, leaving Nakamura alone with his thoughts. The Prometheus weapon was based on theoretical physics that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. It created a quantum resonance field that specifically targeted organic molecules, theoretically causing them to vibrate at frequencies that would tear apart biological tissue. At the molecular level, the theory was sound. The simulations were promising, but theory and simulation were a far cry from reality. Dr. Nakamura called out Dr. Kim. We've got a problem. Nakamura hurried to the engineering station, where Kim was studying a diagnostic display. What is it? The power coupling is experiencing fluctuations, minor ones, but they're increasing in frequency. Cause unknown. The quantum resonance chamber is operating within normal parameters, but something is causing harmonic interference. Nakamura felt his stomach drop. The weapon was incredibly complex, with thousands of components that all had to work in perfect harmony. If even one element failed during deployment, the entire device would be useless. How long to identify and fix the problem, assuming we can identify it? Maybe 12 hours. Maybe never. Nakamura closed his eyes and ran through their options. They could delay deployment and risk the weapon being completely useless, or they Could deploy now and hope the fluctuations didn't cause a catastrophic failure. Deploy the weapon. He ordered. We'll monitor the fluctuations and make adjustments during flight. Sir, that's incredibly dangerous if the resonance chamber destabilizes. During deployment, then we'll have failed spectacularly instead of failing quietly. Either way, we'll have failed. Aboard the UES Defiance, Commander Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with growing unease. The alien fleet had split into 3 separate formations, each one heading for a different human colony system. It was a calculated move designed to force humanity to divide its already inadequate forces. They're smart, Rodriguez observed. They know we can't defend everywhere at once, so they're forcing us to choose which colonies to abandon. Sarah felt sick at the thought. Millions of humans living on dozens of worlds, all looking to Earth for protection that might never come. Commander, called out Dr. Petrov from the science station. I'm detecting some unusual readings from the lead alien formation. Their biomechanical signatures are fluctuating. Sarah turned to the science officer. Fluctuating how? It's hard to describe. The biological components seem to be adapting, growing. The ships are actually getting larger. Larger how? Mass displacement is increasing by approximately 2% per hour. If this continues, the largest ships will be the size of small planets by the time they reach Earth. Sarah stared at the display in horror. Not only were the alien ships technologically superior, but they were also capable of continuous growth and adaptation. By the time they reached human space, they would be even more formidable than they were now. Get me Admiral Harrison, she ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. His expression haggard. Commander Chen, what's your status, sir? We've detected that the alien ships are growing in size. They appear to be using some form of biomechanical adaptation to increase their mass and presumably their capabilities. Harrison's face went pale. How much growth? 2% per hour. If this rate continues, we'll be facing ships that are significantly larger than our original estimates. Understood. Dr. Nakamura's people are about to deploy the Prometheus weapon. If it works, this will all be academic. If it doesn't, we'll need every advantage we can get. Sir, I'd like to request permission to attempt something unconventional. What do you have in mind? We're going to board one of the alien ships. The silence that followed was deafening. Harrison stared at her through the communication link as if she'd suggested swimming through a black hole. Commander, that's completely insane. We know nothing about their internal systems, their atmospheric composition, or their defensive capabilities, which is exactly why we need to try. Dr. Petrov believes the biomechanical components might be vulnerable to direct interference. If we can board one of their ships and disrupt their systems from the inside, we might be able to create a weakness that the fleet can exploit. And if you're wrong, then we'll die trying. But we're going to die anyway if we can't find a way to stop them. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Commander, I can't order you to attempt something that dangerous. You're not ordering me, sir. I'm volunteering. Very well. But if you're going to do this, you'll need support. The UES Horizon will provide cover, and I'm authorizing the use of whatever resources you need. Thank you, sir. The connection ended, leaving Sarah alone with her decision. She was about to attempt something that had never been tried in human history. Boarding an alien vessel during combat. The chances of success were minimal, but the potential rewards were enormous. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the commander. We're about to attempt a boarding action against one of the alien vessels. This is a volunteer mission only. Anyone who doesn't want to participate can transfer to the Horizon before we begin. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every single crew member on the Defiance volunteered for the mission. Sarah felt a surge of pride in her people, even as she recognized the deadly nature of what they were about to attempt. Dr. Petrov, what do we know about the internal structure of the alien ships? Very little. Our scans suggest they have a decentralized command structure, with multiple nodes controlling different ship functions. The biological components appear to be concentrated in the central areas, while the more traditional electronics are distributed throughout the outer hull. Best guess for a boarding location, the junction points between biological and mechanical. Sections. That's where their systems are most vulnerable to interference. Sarah nodded. It was as good a plan as any. Chief Murphy, can you rig our shuttle bay to accommodate an emergency boarding? Give me 2 hours and I'll have cutting torches, emergency life support, and enough explosives to crack open a moon. You have 1 hour. We're running out of time. Chapter 5. Into the belly of the beast boarding shuttle Hermes was a marvel of human engineering, packed with enough firepower and life support equipment to sustain a small army. Chief Murphy had outdone herself, cramming military-grade cutting tools, emergency atmospheric processors, and enough explosives to level a city block into the compact vessel. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the shuttle bay, addressing the 24 volunteers who had been selected for the boarding mission. They were the best of the best, Marines, engineers, technicians, and scientists who had volunteered to attempt something that had never been tried in human history. Listen up, Sarah began, her voice carrying through the bay's communication system. We're about to board an alien vessel whose technology we don't understand, whose defenses we can't predict, and whose crew considers us a biological infestation. Our mission is simple: get inside, disrupt their systems, and create a vulnerability that the fleet can exploit. She paused, looking at each face in turn. I won't lie to you. The chances of survival are minimal. But if we succeed, we might give humanity the edge it needs to survive this war. Sergeant Major David Torres, the mission's military commander, stepped forward. Ma'am, the team is ready. We've studied every scrap of data we have on the alien technology, and we're prepared for anything. Sarah nodded. Torres was a veteran of the colonial wars, a man who had spent 30 years fighting in the worst environments the galaxy had to offer. If anyone could lead a boarding action against alien technology, it was him. Dr. Petrov. Final assessment. The target ship is approximately 2 kilometers in length, with multiple hull breaches from our previous engagement. The biological components are concentrated in the central section, approximately 800 meters from the closest breach point. Defenses unknown. We have to assume they have internal security systems, but we don't know what form they'll take. Sarah checked her combat suit's systems one final time. The boarding team was equipped with the latest in human military technology, powered armor, plasma weapons, and portable life support systems that could keep them alive in the vacuum of space or a toxic alien atmosphere. Helm, bring us to within 500 meters of the target vessel. Maintain position and prepare for emergency extraction. The Hermes detached from the Defiance and began its approach to the alien ship. Through the shuttle's viewports, Sarah could see the massive vessel looming ahead. Up close, the biomechanical nature of the ship was even more apparent. The hull seemed to pulse with organic life, while metallic structures jutted out at irregular intervals. Approaching hull breach, reported the pilot. Atmosphere is strange, oxygen-nitrogen mix, but with trace gases I don't recognize. Toxic, not immediately, but I wouldn't want to breathe it for extended periods. Sarah activated her suits. Communication system, all teams, check your seals, we're going in. The Hermes aligned with the hull breach, and the boarding team moved into the airlock. Sarah felt her heart racing as the outer door cycled open, revealing the alien ship's interior. The corridor beyond was unlike anything in human design. The walls curved organically, with bioluminescent panels providing a sickly green illumination. The floor was covered in what appeared to be a living membrane that pulsed rhythmically, like a massive heartbeat. Jesus, whispered one of the Marines. It's like we're inside a living creature. Stay focused, Sarah ordered. Torres, take point. Dr. Petrov, start scanning for system interfaces. The team moved cautiously through the alien corridors, their weapons ready for anything. The ship's interior was a maze of organic passages and mechanical interfaces, all connected by the pulsing biological membrane that seemed to serve as both floor and nervous system. Commander, called out Dr. Petrov. I'm detecting massive bioelectrical activity ahead. We're approaching what might be a command center. Sarah signaled for the team to halt. Through her suit's sensors, she could detect the same bioelectrical signatures that Dr. Petrov had identified. Whatever lay ahead, It was clearly important to the ship's function. Torres, deploy the team in combat formation. We're going in fast and hard. The team rounded a corner and found themselves facing something that defied description. The chamber ahead was enormous, its walls covered in what appeared to be neural tissue that pulsed with electrical activity. In the center of the room stood a structure that could only be described as a living computer, its organic components interfacing with mechanical systems in ways that challenged human understanding. And surrounding the central structure were the ship's crew. The aliens were tall, roughly humanoid in shape, but clearly evolved from a different evolutionary path. Their skin was a mottled gray-green, with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's systems. They moved with fluid grace, their elongated limbs ending in hands that seemed to merge seamlessly with the ship's. Biomechanical interfaces, contact, Torres announced calmly. Multiple hostiles, unknown capabilities. The aliens had noticed the human intrusion. They turned toward the boarding team with movements that were both alien and somehow predatory. Sarah could see their eyes, large, multifaceted structures that seemed to process information in ways human vision couldn't comprehend. Open fire, Sarah ordered. The boarding team's weapons erupted in a symphony of destruction. Plasma bolts and particle beams streaked across the alien command center, striking the alien crew with devastating effect. The aliens' biological nature made them vulnerable to the same resonance frequencies that had proven effective against their ships, but the aliens weren't defenseless. They moved within human speed, their bodies seeming to flow like liquid as they dodged the human weapons' fire. Those that were hit simply absorbed the energy, their biomechanical nature allowing them to adapt to the human weapons in real time. They're adapting, Torres reported. Weapons are losing effectiveness. Sarah watched in horror as the aliens began to change before her eyes. Their skin hardened, their movements became more mechanical, and their bioluminescent patterns shifted to frequencies that seemed to interfere with human targeting systems. Dr. Petrov, the central structure, can you interface with it? I'm trying, but the biomechanical systems are unlike anything we've encountered. It's like trying to communicate with a living computer that thinks in ways we can't comprehend. The battle was turning against the humans. The aliens had adapted to their weapons, and more were arriving from deeper within the ship. Sarah realized they had only moments before the boarding team would be overwhelmed. All teams, converge on the central structure. We need to disrupt their systems before they can fully adapt. The boarding team fought their way to the center of the chamber, their weapons barely effective against the now adapted aliens. Sarah reached the biomechanical interface and placed her hands on what appeared to be a neural interface port. The moment her gloves touched the alien technology, her mind was flooded with information. She could feel the ship's systems, sense the flow of data through its biomechanical networks, and understand, for the first time, the true nature of the alien technology. The ships weren't just biomechanical, they were alive. Each vessel was a living organism, bred for war and programmed with the imperative to cleanse the galaxy of what they perceived as inferior biological forms. The aliens themselves were as much part of the ship as the crew. Their consciousness merged with the vessel's biomechanical systems. But in that moment of understanding, Sarah also saw the weakness Dr. Petrov had theorized. The biomechanical systems were vulnerable to disruption, not through external weapons, but through direct neural interference. Dr. Petrov, she called out, her voice strained as she fought to maintain the connection. I need you to route a neural disruptor signal through my suit's communication system. Now, Commander, that could kill you. Do it. Dr. Petrov's hands flew over her portable equipment, recalibrating the human communication systems to generate a neural disruptor signal. The device wasn't designed for this kind of use, but human ingenuity had always excelled at making things work beyond their intended parameters. Sarah felt the signal surge through her suit's systems and into the alien ship's neural network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The biomechanical systems began to convulse, their organic components unable to process the chaotic neural patterns that Sarah's mind was forcing into their networks. Throughout the ship, systems began to fail. The bioluminescent panels flickered and died, The organic membranes stopped pulsing, and the aliens themselves seemed to freeze as their connection to the ship's systems was severed. It's working, Torres reported. The aliens are shutting down. But Sarah wasn't finished. She pushed deeper into the ship's neural network, using her human consciousness to disrupt the alien systems at their most fundamental level. She could feel the ship dying around her, its biomechanical systems unable to cope with the chaotic patterns of human thought. "Commander," Dr. Petrov called out urgently, "I'm detecting massive system failures throughout the ship. We need to evacuate now." Sarah tried to disconnect from the alien system, but found herself trapped in the neural interface. Her consciousness was becoming entangled with the ship's dying systems, and she could feel her own thoughts beginning to fragment. Sarah, Torres, grabbed her shoulders, trying to pull her away from the interface. "We have to go." With a tremendous effort of will, Sarah tore herself free from the alien neural network. The sudden disconnection sent feedback through her suit's systems, overloading her communication equipment and leaving her temporarily deaf and blind. "Move," Torres shouted. "The whole ship is coming apart." The boarding team fought their way back through the dying alien vessel, its corridors now dark and lifeless. Behind them, the biomechanical systems continued to fail in cascading waves, each failure triggering more system breakdowns. They reached the hull breach just as the alien ship's structural integrity began to collapse. The Hermes was waiting for them, its pilot holding position, despite the debris field created by the dying alien vessel. "Go, go, go." Torres pushed the last of the boarding team through the airlock. As the alien ship's hull began to buckle around, the Hermes pulled away from the alien vessel. Just as it suffered a catastrophic structural failure, the biomechanical ship folded in on itself, its organic components unable to maintain structural integrity without the neural network that had held them together. "Defiance, this is Hermes," Sarah reported, her voice hoarse from the neural interface. "Feedback, mission accomplished, target destroyed." "Confirmed, Hermes, outstanding work. Return to the ship immediately." As the shuttle returned to the Defiance, Sarah looked back at the debris field that had once been an alien warship. They'd proven that the enemy could be defeated, but at a terrible cost. The neural interface had left her with fragmentary memories of the alien consciousness, glimpses of a species that viewed the galaxy as their personal garden and all other life as weeds, to be eliminated. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the aliens had appeared, humanity had struck back in a way that truly hurt them, and that was just the beginning. Chapter 6. The Quantum Gambit UES Prometheus was a ship built for a single purpose: to deliver humanity's most destructive weapon to the heart of the enemy fleet, and detonate it before the aliens could respond. Captain Elena Martinez had volunteered for the mission knowing it was likely suicide, but she'd also known that the survival of humanity hung in the balance. "Approaching optimal deployment range," reported Lieutenant Commander James Park from the navigation station. "Enemy fleet is maintaining formation. Approximately 50 vessels in a standard attack configuration." Martinez studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was massive, their biomechanical ships arranged in a complex pattern that suggested both defensive and offensive capabilities. The largest vessels, the ones Dr. Petrov had described as moon-sized, were positioned at the center of the formation, protected by smaller but still formidable escort ships. Double quotes Dr. Nakamura. Status of the weapon. The scientist's face appeared on the communication screen, his expression tense. "The quantum resonance chamber is stable, but we're still detecting those power fluctuations. They're getting worse." "How much worse?" "Bad enough that I can't guarantee the weapon will function properly. The resonance field might collapse before reaching full power, or it might detonate prematurely." Martinez felt her stomach tighten. The Prometheus weapon was humanity's best hope for stopping the alien fleet, but it was also untested technology based on theoretical physics. If it failed, not only would Earth be defenseless, but the aliens would know humanity's most powerful weapon was ineffective. "Can you compensate for the fluctuations?" "I'm trying, but the quantum interactions are incredibly complex. I need more time to understand what's causing the interference." "How much time?" At least 6 hours, maybe more. Martinez looked at the tactical display again. The alien fleet would reach the outer system defenses in less than 4 hours. They didn't have 6 hours. Dr. Nakamura, prepare the weapon for immediate deployment. We're going to have to trust that human engineering is robust enough to handle a few power fluctuations. Captain, I strongly advise against. Your advice is noted, Doctor. Prepare for deployment. Martinez turned to her tactical officer. Mr. Chen, plot an intercept course for the center of the alien formation. Maximum burn. Mum. That will take us directly through their defensive perimeter. We'll be destroyed before we can deploy the weapon. Then we'll have to be very lucky and very fast. Execute the course change. The Prometheus accelerated toward the alien fleet, her engines straining to build the velocity needed to penetrate the enemy formation. Martinez watched the tactical display as the range to the alien ships decreased with each passing second. Alien fleet is responding, reported the sensor officer. Multiple vessels breaking formation to intercept us. Evasive maneuvers don't let them get a targeting lock. The Prometheus began a series of complex maneuvers designed to confuse the alien targeting systems. The ship rolled, dove, and spiraled through space, using every trick in the book to avoid the alien weapons fire that was now lighting up the void. Around them, hull breach on Deck 7, reported the damage control officer. We're venting atmosphere. Seal it off. How long to optimal deployment range? 30 seconds, Mum. Martinez gripped the arms of her command chair as the ship shuddered under alien weapons fire. The Prometheus was taking a beating, her armor plating scarred and burned by energy weapons that could have destroyed lesser vessels with a single shot. Deployment range achieved, announced the navigation officer. Dr. Nakamura, deploy the weapon. Now. The quantum resonance weapon ejected from the Prometheus's cargo bay, its metal sphere gleaming in the light of the alien weapon's fire. For a moment, it seemed impossibly small against the vastness of space and the enormous alien fleet. Then it activated. The quantum resonance field expanded from the weapon in a sphere of crackling energy that seemed to bend space itself where it touched the alien ships. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The biomechanical hulls began to convulse and spasm, their organic components unable to cope with the resonance frequencies that were tearing them apart. At the molecular level, it's working, breathed the tactical officer. The alien ships are taking massive damage. Martinez watched in amazement as the quantum weapons effects rippled through the alien fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were now breaking apart, their biomechanical systems failing in cascading waves of destruction. But the weapon's effect wasn't uniform. The smaller alien vessels, those with higher proportions of biological components, were being destroyed outright. The larger ships, with their more robust biomechanical systems, were suffering significant damage but remained operational. Dr. Nakamura, the weapon's effects are inconsistent. Some ships are surviving. The power fluctuations, Nakamura replied urgently. They're causing the resonance field to be unstable. Some areas are receiving full power while others are barely affected. Martinez watched as several of the largest alien vessels began to recover from the weapons effects. Their biomechanical systems were adapting, learning to cope with the quantum resonance frequencies. In a matter of minutes, they would be fully operational again. Captain, called out the communications officer. I'm receiving a transmission from Admiral Harrison. The Sol Defense Fleet is moving to engage the surviving alien vessels. Martinez activated the communication system. Admiral, this is Captain Martinez. The Prometheus weapon has had partial success. Approximately 60% of the alien fleet has been destroyed or disabled, but the largest vessels are recovering. Understood. Captain, you've given us a fighting chance. The fleet is moving to engage while the aliens are still weakened. The tactical display updated to show the human fleet accelerating toward the alien formation. 300 human vessels against the surviving alien ships, better odds than they'd had before. But still a desperate gamble. Sir, Martinez said, the Prometheus is still operational. If you need us to, negative. Captain, you've done your part. Return to base for debriefing. Martinez wanted to argue. wanted to stay and fight alongside the fleet. But she knew the Admiral was right. The Prometheus had been built for a single mission, and that mission was complete. Her crew had done their part. Now it was up to the rest of humanity to finish the job. As the Prometheus turned away from the battle zone, Martinez looked back at the alien fleet. The quantum weapon had given humanity a chance, but it was still far from a guaranteed victory. The surviving alien vessels were massive, their biomechanical systems already beginning to adapt to the quantum resonance frequencies. The real battle was just beginning. Chapter 7. Fleet Engagement. Admiral James Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, flagship of the Seoul Defense Fleet, and watched as 300 human vessels advanced toward the surviving alien ships. The Prometheus weapon had reduced the alien fleet from 50 vessels to 19. But those 19 ships were still the largest and most powerful in the enemy formation. Fleet formation is holding steady, reported Captain Santos from the tactical station. All ships report ready for engagement. Harrison nodded. The human fleet was arranged in a complex formation, designed to maximize their numerical advantage, while minimizing their exposure to alien weapons fire. Fast attack ships would engage the enemy escorts, while the heavy cruisers and battleships focused on the largest alien vessels. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Commander Chen aboard the Defiance. They're requesting permission to rejoin the fleet." Harrison considered the request. The Defiance and her sister ships had been badly damaged in their previous encounters with the aliens, but they also had more experience fighting the enemy than any other human vessels. "Granted, have them take position in the reserve formation." The tactical display updated to show the Defiance, Horizon, and Pathfinder joining the fleet formation. Their hulls were scarred and their systems were running on backup power, but they were still functional and crewed by people who had already proven they could hurt the aliens. "Range to target, 50,000 kilometers and closing," reported the navigation officer. Harrison studied the alien formation. The surviving ships had regrouped into a defensive configuration, their largest vessels protected by smaller, but still formidable escorts. The biomechanical nature of their technology was clearly visible even at this range, with organic components pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. We are about to engage an enemy that views humanity as nothing more than a biological infestation to be eliminated. They have traveled across the galaxy to destroy us, to erase every trace of human civilization from existence. Today, we show them that humanity will not go quietly into the dark." He paused, letting his words sink in throughout the fleet. "All ships, weapons free, engage at will." The human fleet opened fire as one, 300 vessels unleashing everything. They added the alien formation. The void between the fleets lit up with energy weapons, missile contrails, and the brilliant flashes of nuclear detonations. The alien response was immediate and devastating. Their energy weapons, the same ones that had effortlessly destroyed human ships in previous encounters, lanced out across space with surgical precision. The UES Intrepid took a direct hit and simply vaporized. Her crew of 800 lost in an instant. "Evasive maneuvers," Harrison ordered. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta." The human fleet scattered, their formations breaking apart, as individual ships sought to avoid the alien weapons fire. It was a calculated risk. The dispersed formation would make them harder to target, but it would also reduce their concentrated firepower. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "the alien ships are adapting to our weapons. Our particle beams are losing effectiveness." Harrison watched the tactical display as human weapons struck the alien vessels with decreasing effect. The biomechanical nature of the alien technology allowed them to adapt to human weapons in real time, their organic components learning to counter each new threat. "Signal the fleet. Switch to rotational frequency weapons. Don't let them adapt to any single weapon type." The human fleet began cycling through different weapon frequencies, forcing the alien ships to constantly readjust their defenses. It was a tactic that took advantage of human technological diversity. While the aliens had superior individual systems, humans had developed a wider variety of weapons and defensive technologies. Direct hit on alien vessel designated Alpha 7, reported the tactical officer. Significant damage to their biomechanical systems. Harrison allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The human fleet was hurt but still fighting, and they were proving that the aliens could be damaged. The question was whether they could do enough damage before the aliens' superior firepower overwhelmed them. "Sir," called out the communications officer. "Priority transmission from the Defiance. Commander Chen reports they've developed a new tactic for engaging the alien vessels. Put her through." Commander Chen's face appeared on the main screen, her expression determined despite the obvious strain she was under. "Admiral, we've discovered that the alien biomechanical systems are vulnerable to neural disruption. If we can get boarding parties onto their ships, we can disrupt their systems from the inside." "Commander, that's incredibly dangerous. We can't risk." "Sir, it's the only way. We've proven it works." The alien ship we boarded was completely disabled by neural feedback. Harrison looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was taking heavy casualties, and conventional weapons were becoming less effective as the aliens adapted. Commander Chen's boarding tactic might be suicidal, but it was also their best hope for victory. "How many ships do you need? Give me a squadron of fast attack ships and volunteers for boarding parties. We'll target the largest alien vessels and disrupt their command systems." "Granted, Captain Santos." "Coordinate with Commander Chen. Get her whatever she needs." Harrison watched as a dozen human vessels detached from the main fleet and began a high-speed approach toward the largest alien ships. It was a desperate gambit, but then again, the entire battle was desperate. "Sir," reported the sensor officer, "I'm detecting massive power buildups in the alien vessels. They're preparing to fire some kind of super weapon." Harrison felt his blood run cold. The aliens had been holding back, using only their standard weapons against the human fleet. If they were preparing to deploy more advanced systems, the battle could be over in a matter of minutes. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Maximum burn." The human fleet scattered as the alien super weapons charged. Harrison watched the tactical display, counting down the seconds until the aliens would fire their ultimate weapons. The first beam struck the UES Defiant, one of humanity's newest battleships. The vessel didn't just explode, it was consumed, converted into energy in a matter of seconds. The beam continued past the destroyed ship, striking to destroyers and a cruiser, all of which suffered the same fate. "My God," whispered someone on the bridge. Harrison realized they were witnessing the same weapon that had been used against the colonial fleets. The aliens had energy weapons that could convert matter directly into energy, making them capable of destroying entire fleets with a single shot. "Sir," called out the communications officer. "Commander Chen reports successful boarding of alien vessel Alpha 3. They're attempting neural disruption now." Harrison watched the tactical display as the massive alien vessel began to show signs of system failure. Its biomechanical components were convulsing, and its super weapon was powering down. "It's working," reported the tactical officer. "The alien ship is experiencing cascading system failures, but the other alien vessels were continuing their attack. Their super weapons fired again, each beam destroying multiple human ships. The human fleet was being systematically annihilated, their numerical advantage meaningless against weapons that could destroy entire formations with single shots." "Admiral," called out Captain Santos, "we're receiving evacuation requests from 17 ships. They're too badly damaged to continue fighting." Harrison looked at the tactical display. The human fleet had been reduced to less than 200 operational vessels, and the aliens were still firing their super weapons. At this rate, the entire fleet would be destroyed within the hour. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "Commander Chen reports successful neural disruption of alien vessel Alpha 3. The ship is dead in space. 1 alien vessel down, 18 to go." Harrison did the math and realized it was hopeless. Even if Commander Chen's boarding parties could disable 1 alien ship every 10 minutes, the human fleet would be destroyed long before they could eliminate all the alien vessels. But then something unexpected happened. The alien ship that had been disabled by neural disruption began to affect the other alien vessels. The biomechanical nature of their technology meant that the ships were connected in ways that human technology wasn't. The neural disruption was spreading through the alien fleet like a virus, transmitted through their biomechanical networks. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, his voice filled with amazement. "The alien vessels are experiencing cascading system failures. Their biomechanical networks are collapsing." Harrison watched in disbelief as the alien fleet began to shut down, ship by ship. The neural disruption that had disabled one vessel was spreading through their entire formation. Their interconnected biomechanical systems unable to isolate the infection. "All ships, concentrate fire on the disabled vessels. Don't let them recover." The human fleet poured fire into the paralyzed alien ships, their weapons finally effective against targets that couldn't adapt or defend themselves. One by one, the massive alien vessels were destroyed, their biomechanical hulls rupturing under the concentrated human assault. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "all alien vessels have been destroyed or disabled. The fleet is victorious." Harrison slumped in his command chair, the weight of command finally lifting from his shoulders. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, using tactics that had never been tested and weapons that barely worked. Humanity had defeated the alien invasion fleet. But even as he celebrated the victory, Harrison knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had come from somewhere in the galaxy, and there were almost certainly more of them. Humanity had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The real test would come when they had to take the fight to the enemy's home territory. Because if there was one thing Harrison had learned from this battle, it was that the only way to truly defeat an enemy was to make them afraid to attack you again. And for that, humanity would need to become something they had never been before, the predators instead of the prey. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. The aftermath of the Battle of Seoul was a study in controlled chaos. Debris from both human and alien vessels drifted through space, creating a hazard zone that would take months to clear. Medical ships moved between the surviving human vessels, evacuating the wounded and providing emergency repairs to ships that were barely holding together. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the medical bay of the Defiance, watching as Dr. Martinez worked to save the life of Sergeant Major Torres. The veteran Marine had suffered severe neural trauma during the boarding action, his mind damaged by the alien biomechanical systems he'd been forced to interface with. "How is he?" Sarah asked. Dr. Martinez looked up from her patient, her expression grim. "The neural damage is extensive. He's alive, but I don't know if he'll ever fully recover. The alien technology, it's unlike anything we've encountered. It doesn't just damage the brain, it restructures it." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Torres wasn't the only one who had been affected. Every member of the boarding parties had suffered some degree of neural contamination from contact with the alien biomechanical systems. The long-term effects were unknown, but the preliminary reports were disturbing. "Doctor, I need to know, are we still human?" It was a question that had been haunting Sarah since the battle. The neural interface with the alien ship had left her with fragmented memories and thought patterns that didn't feel entirely her own. She could sense the alien consciousness lurking at the edges of her mind, a cold presence that viewed biological diversity as an aberration to be corrected. Physiologically, yes, but neurologically. Dr. Martinez paused, choosing her words carefully. "The alien technology appears to create permanent changes in brain structure. You're still you, but you're also something else." Sarah nodded grimly. It was what she'd suspected. The humans who had interfaced with alien technology were no longer purely human. They were something new, something that straddled the line between human and alien consciousness. "Commander," called out Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station, "Admiral Harrison is requesting your immediate presence in the war room." Sarah made her way to the war room, where Admiral Harrison was meeting with the surviving fleet commanders. The holographic display showed the current state of human space, with defensive positions marked throughout the Sol system. "Commander Chen," Harrison said as she entered, "I need to debrief you on the boarding actions. Your tactics were instrumental in our victory, sir. I need to report potential contamination of the boarding personnel. The alien biomechanical systems appear to have caused permanent neural changes in everyone who interfaced with them. Harrison's expression darkened. Contamination. Are you saying the boarding parties are compromised? I'm saying we're changed. The alien consciousness is still there, at the edge of our minds. We can sense their thought patterns, understand their motivations. In some ways, we're more dangerous to them now than we were before. Explain. Sarah took a deep breath. The aliens don't just view other species as inferior, they view biological diversity itself as a threat to their perfect order. They've been traveling the galaxy for millennia, eliminating any species that doesn't conform to their biomechanical ideal. But they've never encountered a species that could adapt to their technology the way we have. You're saying we can turn their own weapons against them? More than that, we can become them, at least partially. The neural contamination gives us insights into their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. We can use that knowledge to hunt them down and destroy them before they can threaten humanity again. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Commander, what you're describing sounds like you're advocating for deliberate contamination of human personnel. I'm advocating for evolution, sir. The aliens forced us to adapt or die. We chose to adapt. Now we need to decide what we're going to do with that adaptation. The war room fell silent. Everyone present understood the implications of what Sarah was suggesting. Humanity could choose to remain purely human and risk future alien attacks, or they could embrace the neural contamination and become something new, something that could hunt aliens with their own weapons. Sir, said Captain Santos, we've intercepted alien communications from the debris field. Dr. Petrov's team has been analyzing them. Dr. Petrov's image appeared on the holographic display. Admiral, the communications are disturbing. The aliens have been in contact with their home fleet. They know about our victory, and they're preparing a much larger force to deal with what they're calling the human infestation. How much larger? Conservative estimates suggest a fleet of at least 500 vessels, including several ships that are described as world killers. They're treating Earth as a priority target for complete sterilization. Harrison closed his eyes. They'd won one battle, but the war was far from over. The aliens were coming back with overwhelming force, and humanity had to be ready. Commander Chen, your recommendation. Sarah looked around the war room at the assembled commanders. These were the best and brightest of humanity, the people who would decide the species' future. The decision they made in the next few minutes would determine whether humanity survived as a purely human species or evolved into something new, sir. I recommend we establish a new military branch, the Alien Contact Division. Personnel would be volunteers who undergo controlled neural contamination to gain insight into alien technology. They would be humanity's first line of defense against future alien threats, and the risks are acceptable compared to the alternative. The aliens are coming back, and they're not going to underestimate us again. We need every advantage we can get. Harrison nodded slowly. Very well, Commander Chen, you're hereby promoted to Admiral and placed in command of the Alien Contact Division. Your first mission is to prepare humanity for the next alien invasion. Harrison nodded slowly. Very well, Commander Chen. You're hereby promoted to Admiral and placed in command of the Alien Contact Division. Your first mission is to prepare humanity for the next alien invasion. Sarah felt the weight of her new responsibility settle on her shoulders. She was no longer just a ship commander, she was now responsible for humanity's evolution into something that could survive in a galaxy full of hostile aliens. Sir, I'll need volunteers for the neural contamination program. It's not something that can be forced on people. You'll have them. After what we've seen, I think you'll find that humanity is ready to do whatever it takes to survive. As the meeting broke up, Sarah remained in the war room, staring at the holographic display that showed the current state of human space. Somewhere out there, the aliens were preparing for another attack, but this time, humanity would be ready. This time, they would be the hunters instead of the hunted.